everyone. It's good to see you today. I hope you're not too busy, and if you'd like to come and read a story with me, I'd really appreciate your company. My name's Nathan, and I'm a student here at Adelaide Place, and one of my favourite hobbies is drumming. You might have seen me around the church or playing in the worship band. So, I don't know what you guys used to play when you were younger, but I used to love playing Jenga. And I can't say I was very good at it. To be honest, I didn't really try to win. I quite like just blowing over the tower and watching all the bricks come crashing down. I don't know, maybe you wouldn't want to play against me. But there is something about walls coming down in the story that we're going to be looking at today. We're going to be looking at Joshua, and there's an awful lot of walls coming crashing down in the story of Joshua. So we're going to be looking at that if you'd like to pray. Lord, I just want to thank you that we can come here today and we can hang out with our friends and we can learn more about your words, Lord, and what you want for our lives. I pray that you just keep our ears tuned and that we listen to the words that you speak to us today, Lord. And I want to thank you for our friends and our family, and I pray you keep us safe this week. Amen. Okay, now for the story. So this one is called The Warrior Leader. Joshua in the Battle of Jericho, from Joshua's 3 and 6. After Moses died, God gave his people a new leader. His name was Joshua, which means the Lord saves. Joshua was going to lead his people into the special land God had promised to give them. By this time, God's people had been wandering around in that baking desert for 40 years. So you can just imagine how sick they were of sand and anything yellow and tents and walking and being hot. And how happy were they to reach the edge of the desert to see their beautiful new home, right there in front of them, all cool and green and lovely. There was only one problem: Jericho. Jericho was a city, but it wasn't just any old city. It was a fortress and stopped anyone from getting into the land. The people looked at Jericho, at the big, giant, scary walls all around it, at the tall towering ramparts, at the heavy iron gates bolted shut, at each other. What would they do? What would they do? No one knew, but God knew. And God told Joshua what to do. But Joshua must have looked surprised because it was a very odd battle plan indeed, as we'll soon find out. Then God made his people a promise. I will always be with you, and I will never, ever leave you. If you do what I say, your lives in the new land will be happy and everything will go well. So Joshua gathered his army together. They had swords and spears and shields. The plan wasn't about fighting though. It was about trusting and doing what God said. Joshua's army went out marching around the city, day after day after day. They're too scared to fight, the people of Jericho said. But they were wrong. God's people weren't scared. They were just waiting for God to tell them what to do next. On the seventh day, God told his people to march around the city not once, but 7 times. Then God told everyone to make as much noise as they could. Has anyone ever told you to make as much noise as you possibly can? Well, imagine that noise. Add 39,999 other people making that much noise too, and you get the idea. It was ear-splitting. And as it turned out, stone-splitting too, because the huge, strong walls of Jericho just crumbled to the ground as if they were made of sand. Jericho vanished in a great cloud of dust. So that it was God's people that entered their new home, and they didn't have to fight to get in, they just had to walk. Joshua said, God has brought you safely here. Now will you do what he says? Everyone said, we promise, we promise. Only God can make your heart happy, Joshua said, so don't pray to pretend gods. No, they said, never, never. I'm afraid they didn't keep their promise. They didn't do what God said, and many years later, just as God warned them, things would get bad for God's people. They would lose their home, enemies would capture them and scatter them into many different places, and they'd be taken as slaves. But God's plan was still working. One day he would give his people another leader and another home. But this home no one could ever take away from them. I really hope you enjoyed that story. Isn't it amazing how God's promises come true if we follow what He says? So now we're going to be singing a song, and this one is called Every Eye Is on You. I think you guys have done it before, so you should be pretty good at the actions by now. On with the song.
Every eye in this place is on you now. Every voice singing out to worship you. Every hand lifted up to show our love. Every eye in this place is on you now. Every voice singing out to worship you. Every hand lifted up to show our love. You're the one the song is for. You're the one we all adore. Lifting up your name, we're lifting up your name forever. Every eye is on you. Every eye is on you. You're the love over us and deep within. You're the peace in our hearts as we sing. You're the light turning darkness into day. You're the one the song is for. You're the one we all adore. Lifting up your name, we're lifting up your name forever. Every eye is on you. Every eye is on you. Jesus, you're my joy, you are my freedom. Jesus, you're my joy, you are my freedom. You're the one we all adore. Jesus, Jesus. You're the one the song is for. You're the one we all adore. Lifting up your name, we're lifting up your name forever. Every eye is on you.